Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to start. This'll be different. So, live tonight, in place of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, it's Access Denied, 403 Forbidden. On this new periodic show, we will be exploring the anomalous, the unhinged, the fringe, the cringe, the UFOs, the cryptids, the abhorred, the ignored, the restored, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the curious, the quantum, the lore, the chimera, the unquantifiable, the untaxonomicable, the forbidden, the unbidden, the dark, the abnormal, the paranormal, the unsound, the subterfuge, the cabals, the conspiracies, and all the wet, slimy things that refuse to fit in your closet, that leak from your dresser, or breathe under your bed at night. Tonight, I have a great guest, and thanks to everyone for being here. It's BZ's good friend, Alan Thomas, here in the saloon. It's the same studio, it's just unquantifiable. That's all. And what I've done is I've decided that where I've done shows similar to this before, that is to say, shows with all of that potentiality, I've decided that instead of linking them with the saloon, I'm just going to do separate shows that deal specifically with that. And for my first guest on the new show, I'd like to introduce Alan Thomas. Now, everybody knows Alan has been on my show any number of times. I stopped counting at 30. So, Alan, is your mic on?
Testing 1, 2. I think it is.
Okay, there we go. Outstanding. Out-damn standing.
Sweet.
So anyway, having spoken to Alan any number of times on the show prior, I figured that for the new kind of a different show that I want to keep separate from politics, this show could feature anything and everything. And I couldn't think of anybody better to have on for the very first inclination of Access Denied than Alan Thomas himself. Now, if you have been following the show, you know that Alan is a great friend of mine, and I want to put this up so everybody can see, because I want to show everyone. Alan has a great spot on X, and it's called Squatch Zone, at Squatch Zone, SQUATCH Zone, and this is what it looks like. And so with Squatch Zone, that's a ton of things to do. Now, Alan will do politics. Alan will do all sorts of things. As you can see right here, Alan is a leather maker and refers to all sorts of things in terms of leather. But I also want to do this. And this is Alan Thomas's spot on the interwebs in terms of on YouTube, Squatch Zone itself. And with that, Alan Thomas, I'm just going to pretend like a lot of the people that are here tonight don't really know you very well. And I want to go back, and this is how long Alan and I have known each other. And it doesn't seem like that. Do you remember we met Alan Thomas at the SAC UFO Con?
I do. Remember.
And in the process of doing that, do you remember what year it was? I hope you're sitting down, because this may blow your brainulus.
And I'm thinking 2010 or something like that.
Not bad. Brainulous blown, but 2015. When I went to research this, let me put this up right now. I had to remember that it was the SAC UFO con. There's some information. Most of the information on that is gone. I had to really look deep
Right.
and find out that it was October 24th to the 25th of October, 2015 at the Crown Plaza, Sacramento, in Sacramento, California, right off Interstate 80 and Madison Avenue. And that was the first time that I'd ever met you. And I can remember that yourself and your former mate, Jeffrey Gonzalez, you guys were there and you had trundled a massive trailer of UFO stuff behind a pickup truck up 99, or I should say, that's right. It was up 99 in 2015 to stuff all that stuff, all that material into this huge area. You weren't into the smaller breakout rooms of the SAC UFO con. You guys took up basically the entire center atrium of that place. And that's where I first met you. And it was a great, great thing to meet you. So can you, Alan Thomas, tell folks a little bit about yourself? You've had some very significant things go on in your life to include
go ahead.
To include dying twice, to include the things that got you there, to include CRPS, to include yourself being a Bigfoot, Sasquatch investigator, researcher, know a ton about UFOs, know a ton about the supernatural, and also a big believer in God. Now, it shouldn't surprise anyone and everyone that if I put this up, you can look up here and see that I have a plethora of things to talk about, a fraction of which, a small scintilla of which I will only get to tonight. But it's there if we need it. In any event, Alan Thomas, if you can, encapsulate just a little bit about you for the people that don't know you.
Well, for people that never knew me, my life has been where, and I'm going to use a little bit of language, everybody tells me bullshit. You never did all those things. You never did all those things. And it started when I was really young, hot air ballooning. We crashed a hot air balloon and lived.
Oh,
and actually, we saved the balloon too. One. Yeah, we saved the balloon. A storm kicked up. We knew the weather was going to go bad, but it was supposed to go more north of us. And in the middle of our flight, it went right at us and sent us way over the town. We ran out of fuel. We dropped down in a little vacant lot, but not enough room to lay the envelope or the balloon down. And we changed tanks and we took off again, looking for a place to land. But we wound up flying over the Fresno Air Terminal. And back then, no cell phones or anything. So I bet this airport was surprised. The tower is probably freaking out seeing this hot air balloon fly over the airport, right over the middle of it, and blew us over this big street. And then behind there was a winery, and we had to give it a little gas to get over the winery. And we crash landed on the other side. The wind was blowing so hard that we couldn't land properly. So we bounced a few times. We hit the ground and bounced, and finally we dumped the basket over, and it laid the balloon down, pulled the center out of it. And then I ran up and jumped in the balloon and wrapped myself up because the wind was keeping it full. Even though the hot air was out, the wind was blowing into it and keeping it a big envelope. So I ran up and I saved the day. We didn't go into the next giant traffic street, but a lot of people, they don't believe that. And that was at the same time, like the same years, like in these 5 years of hot air ballooning. And I had my own TV studio, video production company. I traveled around the world with a camera, been to Africa. That's actually where God introduced me to demons, and I learned how to deal with that. Uh, then I come home, and a few months later, I'm deer hunting, and a Bigfoot comes out, 12 feet tall, comes walking down the mountain. Thought it was a man at first, but it wasn't. It was some big, huge, 12-foot tall, giant, jet black man thing with black fur all over it. And then it just goes on. My life goes on. I like to do my own businesses, so I didn't really work very many places. I mostly did my own thing until the casino, and then I got in there and worked myself right up to the top marketing director, food and beverage director, and the network administrator, all at the same time. Highest paid guy. Everybody's like, BS, dude, BS. You didn't do all that stuff, but yeah, I did. And I've gone Bigfoot hunting. I've been all over the cable TV network. I went work for Animal Planet, Nat Geo, and I could go on, but that's just, and then meeting BZ, doing all kinds of stuff with BZ, like beautiful things happen in my life. Died in 2000, went to heaven. Didn't get to see Jesus, but I saw enough to know that he's real. And I knew when I was there, he was real. But I wasn't done with my life, and that's what sent me back. They're asking me, "Are you done?" I was like, I have no idea. I thought they meant, was I done fooling around in heaven? Because I realized you could travel at the speed of thought, and I was jamming around all over. And then something in my head told me I was supposed to meet somebody, and I panicked because I was, at least, like, if you're going to drive, I don't know, about 100 miles away from where I landed in heaven and traveling at the speed of thought, I was, like a 4-hour drive away, but it was instantaneous. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do. And I went through all these scenarios of how I could get back, or I didn't really know I was traveling at the speed of thought at that point. And I thought, man, I should have never left. As soon as I made that thought, I was standing in front of 2 light beings right where I landed when I first got there. And then they asked me if I'm done, and I didn't know what I thought they meant done fooling around, like in heaven. But really, then they asked me about my family, and I realized it was about my family. I wasn't done. All of a sudden, I got sucked back into my body at faster than light speed, like a blink of an eye, but I could feel myself flying. It felt like I was actually thrown, kind of like shot out of a gun or a cannon, and then slammed into my body. Opened my eyes. The doctor's yelling, stay with us, and I conked out. When I woke up, he said that he saved my right leg. That made me really happy, but it was never the same after that. Still not the same. That led to the CRPS or RSD, whatever you want to call it. Highest pain known to man, no cure. And then here I am. But I've also, I was in a wheelchair for 5 years, and then on a cane for 10 or more years. Finally put the cane away, and I'm walking on my own steam without a cane. I'm really happy about that. It's been like almost 3 years without a cane now. Doing really good, and and here we are.
You died twice, though.
Yeah.
Hadn't you told me that? Was it during the same session in the same hospital?
Right. But I didn't know I died twice. Far as I knew, I only died once. But when I got in the recovery, and they told me they saved my leg, and then he's like, you died twice. We didn't know you were going to get you back. That's how I knew I died twice. But I didn't experience twice. I just experienced once. And maybe I didn't get all the way back, I don't know. I don't know.
I've asked you this before, but I want to make sure that I ask you this again. You've had any number of experiences on a wide range of areas and topics. You died, went to heaven, came back, and then you had many more multiple experiences since. My suggestion was, and I want to let you answer this, is once exposed to something like this, don't you find that not just yourself and or perhaps other people and maybe some other people who are watching tonight or listening tonight later on in podcast, I submit and I believe when you have something like that, that it makes you susceptible to a wide range of other experiences. And I, I this is how wide. I mean, you're talking about truly cryptids, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, that kind of that's sort of your center area, especially when in consideration of your being and having created Squatch Zone on YouTube. But it didn't stop there. You've had other experiences with regard to, correct me if I'm wrong, the supernatural, various forms of cryptids, not just limited to Bigfoot, paranormal experiences, experiences with God that inform your religion. You have a lot of views and experiences with regard to some of the things that I hope I am able to get to tonight. A lot of these are references to the Catholic Church, but they're kind of general too, as well. But what I'd like to do first is focus in a little bit on, you had an issue with your leg, a medical issue. You went to the hospital. Medicine calls this a medical misadventure, when they screw up in some fashion, or if they kill you, that is termed a medical misadventure. And I'm not kidding. That's the wording, the phrasing that medicine has for things like that. And medicine continues, I believe the estimations are anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80,000 people are killed due to medical misadventures in the United States. You had yours, which had you dying, which I believe opened you up. And then you became a little bit of a vessel into which was poured a whole lot of different stuff. One of the things that I want to emphasize is, can you explain a little bit, Alan Thomas, what CRPS is and RSD? Because after that medical misadventure, that's what you've had to labor under then and now and in the future. It's not reparable. So what is CRPS, right?
Well, there's well, back in the day they called it reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and that actually even before that, in World War I and in the Civil War, they called it causalgia. And a lot of times the people in the Civil War, they would get hit in the right at the top of the leg, in the groin section of where your leg bends at your torso, and it would break the artery right there, or perforate the artery, the femoral artery, and then they would put a tourniquet and they would cut off the blood flow to the leg. So they've known about this all the way back to then, but it went from causalgia, RSD, and now today they call it CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, because it's a pain thing. so there's two types of this. There's type 1, where they have no idea how you get it. It could be from an insect bite. It could be from you bumps your toe, a broken bone. They don't really know how you get that. And then there's type 2, and they know exactly how you get that. That's from a tourniquet or damage like I did, where they block the femoral artery doing an angiogram or after the angiogram, and it cuts off the blood flow. And within seconds of cutting off the blood flow, tissue begins to die. And within minutes, it's spreading. Within days, you're losing your leg. So mine was around 9 days, 8 or 9 days. And without any blood flow at all, except maybe a little bit of collateral, but not enough to feed the lower extremity of the leg, the ankle, the foot, below the knee type thing. And even somewhere in the thigh area, there's dead spots and stuff like that. Constant burning. The one thing with RSD, I can't remember what the term is, but like a fan blowing on you, or the wind blowing, or a heater in the car blowing on you, you can feel it, and it sets you on fire. So sitting in front of a fan for me is intolerable. I can't do it. Even though like I might be blazing hot and sweating, I'll get in front of that fan, but I'll try to shield my leg, pants rubbing on it, your sock, bedding, all that messes with it. But that's basically what it is.
So it's permanent. It's not going away. I think you've quantified it before as on a 1 to 10 scale. It's right about an 8 or a 9 all the time.
Constant. Yeah.
It never goes away. But I think those things, however, are the things that you've gone through and you've triumphed over them, because dying on the table, got a wheelchair, got crutches, got a cane, and I've forgotten the various back issues, etc. But I think
and 4 heart stents. Yeah,
oh,
instead
okay.
of I was dying from a heart attack, and they wanted to do a triple bypass or a quadruple bypass, but they couldn't do the bypass because I would have died before they could do anything. So they stented the heart 4 times. That was in 2015. So like,
wow.
Yeah, like I beat death. I don't know how many times I beat death. But one of the things that you brought up that recently, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. Over the years, I never really figured out what was going on, but I can feel people. I could sense that visit to heaven and all that. I can feel people. I could sense when they're gonna die. I can feel their, like, if they're angry or if they're sad or if they're happy. And I never really, all I knew is when I would get into a crowd of people, it was too much for me. So I learned to shut it down. I didn't know what it was, but I could turn it off, even though like sometimes there would be somebody hurting so bad I'd want to cry for them. And you can't just start crying with everyone around you, like, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why it was. And recently I I have a friend that's the general manager of a, what do you call it? A stadium, indoor, like, I don't know what they call it, like a stadium or event center, seats, I don't know, 20 something thousand people.
Like a big arena of some sort?
Yeah, arena. There you go. That's a good word. And I got in there, and what I was doing was I was a seat filler. So she calls me up. She used to work for me in the casino business, but she was my rep. She was the sales manager for like 5 radio stations. And instead of going through all the reps at the radio station, I would go through her. And then she would tell her people in all the different radio stations what I wanted. It was just easier for me and save time. but really good friend. And she'll call me up when she wants, like, I can go to concerts and different things, events, and I'm a seat filler. When it's on TV, if like, say they're have the camera set up, so in a section of the arena where the camera looks all the time, you get up and go, somebody goes to the bathroom, you go fill the seat so it looks full all the time. So you get to see the whole show event, but you might have to move around a little bit, right? I don't care. That's fun. I like, so I was in there. I didn't get called. You have the best seats. You're on the floor, because you got to be able to get quickly over to that other seat. Usually when there's a commercial, that's when you run over there real fast. And when they come back, the seat's full. Nobody's the wiser, right? Really, truly. But this night, there was the people, I guess it's such these, what do they call it? Pro wrestling. And I mean, the place was packed. It was loud. I didn't have to move. I was on the floor and I was feeling all these emotions. Real, like, at first it started off evil. It was like something evil was in there, and then that evil was causing emotions on other people. And and it was hurting people too. Like, all I could say was it was on a giant scale of I've never felt before, this kind of thing. And I found out a couple of days later it's empathic or something like that. They're telling me that.
Okay.
Yeah, that I have that. And then that answered a lot of questions for me over the years of how I could see somebody on TV and I'll know they're going to die. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're gone. Right. And so that answered a lot of questions of how what I was feeling and stuff like that, but that's just a recent thing that I'm barely learning right now, what it is, how it works, all that.
And on that, we're going to take a break. I'm BZ. That's Alan Thomas. You're in the first show of Access Denied 403 Forbidden, and we'll be right back after that. An empath. I want to hear more about that from Alan Thomas. Don't go away, folks.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right, you can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And you are listening to the SHR Media Network. I'm BZ, your host tonight. And with BZ is Alan Thomas. This is the first of, I hope, many shows of 403 Forbidden. And what that means is it's going to be a periodic show when I have enough information to do an engaging show with an interesting presenter or some new and unique things that have come along the way. Like I say, it's going to be periodic, and it'll deal with stuff that's like anomalous, as I indicated at the beginning of the show, like the unhinged, the fringe, the cringe, the UFOs, the cryptids, the abhorred, the ignored, the restored, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the curious, the quantum, the lore, the chimera, the unquantifiable, the untaxonomicable. See what I did there? The forbidden, the unbidden, the dark, the abnormal, the paranormal, the unsound, the subterfuge, the cabals, the conspiracies. We're all very well versed in those. And occasionally, maybe we'll be talking about all the wet, slimy things that refuse to fit in your closet, that leak from your dresser, or breathe under your bed at night. And with that, I bring back Alan Thomas. And Alan, thank you again for being here tonight.
Absolute
Alan,
pleasure, man.
Alan has been through a wide array of experiences. And if you were to, I guarantee you this, and true then when I first met Alan in 2015, and true today, anyone who happens to meet Alan and you sit down with him for any period of time, you discover that he has an extremely wide array of experiences, life experiences. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. 2 or 3 minutes with him, and you'll understand that he's one of the best, nicest, kindest individuals that you'll meet. He's gracious. He's funny. He can tell probably the widest array of stories ever, because he has the widest array of experiences around. Anybody that meets Alan Thomas, you're going to come away from him, whether you meet him for a minute or two, or you jaw with him for a half hour. You're going to come back and you're going to be impressed, and you're going to say to yourself, that's one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. and it was true then, and it's true now. And then on top of that, add all the experiences that he's had. He's a man of faith. By doing all the things we discussed in the first half hour, I believe, and I think Alan believes, that he's been a receptacle or a vessel much bigger than this, into which his receptivity has made him, amongst other things, as you were talking before we broke, an empath. So you explained what occurred at that arena. And then if you could expand for just a little bit about an empath, and then there's some other places that I'd like to go, if you don't mind. But how was it, Alan Thomas, that you thought that you became an empath? And you said, because I've known you since 2015, and you said since then, now, you're just now beginning to learn how it is that you're having empathetic receptivity. I don't want to put it in my words, but you said you're just now kind of starting to struggle with that and about what it means. So what does it mean, Alan Thomas?
Well, I think I already had it, from birth, I guess. But only, it was something where I never felt it in an arena size, right? It would be like if I sat and chatted with somebody for a little while, I would pick up on things
like a one-on-one.
Like if they're really sad or they're going through something, and I would be able to feel for them and actually really truly feel for them. I was feeling it, And then I would get around some people, and maybe they knew they had a short time on the earth, and I could see it in their eye. They were short timing, and I didn't know how long, but I knew not long. And I could see it in people's eyes. And when I see that now, like back in the day before all this, I would just turn it off. Like, and when I go in a grocery store or a mall or somewhere where there's people, I could shut it off. I still feel it, but I ignore it. And that's what I've been doing. But then when I got in that arena, the evil that was in that arena, or I don't know what, I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but it was evil. And there was a lot of blood and skulls and, these horns and all kinds of stuff going on, and bad talk about evil. But only I was feeling it before they came out with all that stuff. And so it's interesting, it's interesting. I never felt it on a scale like that. I felt evil before. In Africa, I was confronted with a lot of evil. I mean, straight up demons. And then here at home, we'd get calls to haunted places, and then it winds up being demonic possession and stuff like that. So I'm. It's not like I don't know, but I never felt it on a scale like that, and how it could affect so many people. Like an arena of people. I would say a majority of them were under the spell of this, whatever it was.
Did you feel, or do you feel now, that you were basically, it's just you're being assaulted 24/7? But you said you have a way of turning it off, because I should imagine that if you couldn't, it would drive you nuts.
Yeah, it does. Like, you can't go shopping. I try to keep it off at all times, and that's what kind of tripped me out when I was in the arena. Everything was good for the first 20 minutes or so, and then about 10 minutes before it actually started, something descended and hovered into that arena, and it was like it was a trip. Like, I never felt anything that intense. And at first I thought it was my imagination, but it grew in intensity until they started doing the blood and guts stuff, and then I knew what I knew what it was. I knew what was. I don't know if the people that were doing that understand what they're doing, or if they brought that, or they're doing it on like that. That's the part I'm trying to figure out. Like, are they intentionally doing that? And it seemed like the people were eating it up, like hanging on every word, yelling and saying all kinds of stuff, and actually starting to act out in the audience and stuff all around me too. It was really a trip. The intensity level got really big, and it had me like flabbergasted, really, like, what in the world? I never felt anything like that ever anywhere in the world, really. It's amazing.
How long ago was that, by the way?
It was about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that was something you've experienced, I don't know, 4, 3, 2, a year ago, at least. I did not know about that. So this is something new for you then.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, do you have any perceptions about where it is that this is going to go? Because being an empath is like what a lot of the people that say that they are seers that you see on television, and what the young, I can't think of their names, the young kid, Jonathan Edwards comes to mind, and a lot of the other people. I'm not sure that I believe them and their stuff. But I find it interesting that of the people of which I've read who have gone through a similar situation to you, that is to say, dying, coming back, you've been kind of preloaded with a lot of experiences, and the receptivity and the sensitivity for more experiences. Now, let's go back to Bigfoot. Because you sent to me some information. I want to go to Bigfoot for a while, and then I want to go to some UFO stuff, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
But in terms of Bigfoot, one of the things that you sent to me, and you and I are similar in terms of whom we have met in our lifetimes. And let me go to this. There was a show that just came out. It's a documentary that is kind of making big waves right now. I think it's been released for at least a month or two. And it's called Capturing Bigfoot, a documentary by, I'm not sure of the guy's name, but okay, here it goes. I'm looking at the thing right there. Mark Evans. And it was released at South by Southwest. And to me, this guy appearing in a clearly fake Bigfoot suit indicates right off the bat, again, to me, that this guy isn't serious. And so maybe that's his point. I have not seen the documentary. Have you, Alan Thomas?
I haven't either. I think he's after money, like I think that's a motivating thing, and to try to debunk this, but there's no debunking it. Like, as you said, we've hung out with some of the people that are well respected in this field, and they lay their life on the line, saying, their whole career and everything, and say it wasn't fake. You couldn't fake it, right? I mean, like, even the Hollywood guy that made the costumes, I sat in Bill Munn. We sat there in Felton, California at the museum, and he gave us a whole, like, a personal little slideshow, and he stood up there and showed us all the reasons why that couldn't have been made at the time that this film came out, and that they, in Hollywood at that time, they couldn't make anything like that. And even today, without AI, they can't really make it that good. And I mean, after you talk to so many people, and then that empath thing helps me. It helps me a lot with stuff like that, like who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. You know what I mean? Like I get tuned in pretty quick on stuff like that.
The thing I want to point out, and it's, in my opinion, it's really sad when people pass away. And there was an individual that both you and I have spoken to on any number of occasions. And I happened to see him and meet him for the first time last July of last year. And that was Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And he was at Idaho State here in my state. And he was a doctor of anthropology. And in terms of anthropology, he just passed away last year at the age of 67. With what appears to be like super quick, very fast onset brain cancer. You probably have photos of him and yourself. And this is myself with Dr. Jeff Meldrum last year. We went to Colorado. We drove south to Colorado, myself and Mrs. BZ, in order to go see Dr. Meldrum and Dan Toth and a number of other people. And Dr. Meldrum impressed me in terms of, he gave a 2.5 hour presentation with great amounts of detail and minutia, particularly in consideration of his anthropological background, about the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1968. And I can guarantee you, folks, if you had seen his presentation, you would be a believer of that. And that's why this guy with that photo just kind of pisses me off, because that shows to me his intent. That shows me what it was that he was trying to do anyway. And I think you're right. He says there's new information that's come to light. And if you'd been through the presentation of Dr. Meldrum in an historical and a physiological way, you would have come to the same conclusion, I believe, that I did, is that in 1968, this was not replicable.
Right.
You know, Stanley Kubrick.
I've sat with Bob Gimlin, and it was Bob Gimlin, yes, Dr. Meldrum, Bill Munn, a couple of the people off of Finding Bigfoot, all there, right? We're all watching this presentation, and each one, and they all got to say their piece, you know, what they think about the Patterson-Gimlin film. I mean, and when you're sitting across from somebody and you're listening to them afterwards, before the thing, and then after the thing, and everybody's talking, you know, like Bob Gimlin wouldn't be able to fake me out. I've sat with him probably 3 times over the years and listened to his story. It never changed, ever. And like, he's one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet too. Like, you could probably shoot holes in it if it wasn't for that, his reputation and all that, like the how he lives and how what he did for his living and all that. Like, he was a stand-up guy. Like, why would he do that? It wasn't for the money. He hasn't made any money at all on it.
I want to show you a little bit of this film, which is part and parcel of what was used. I'm going to put this up here. This is the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, but it's stabilized. And Dr. Meldrum went into great amounts of detail in terms of pointing out what could not be replicated then. Before I play the film, I want to also say that in 1968, it was shot in 66, 67, and then presented in 1968. Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, in which he spent in those dollars, in 1967 dollars, he spent $2 to $3 million just on the apes in the ape suit. And that was the literal state of the art at the time. And I defy you to look at 2001, which is the best that Hollywood could do back in those years, 67, 68, 66, as they're creating the film. And you compare that, which are, when you see the film, the first thing you think of is, okay, guys in ape suits. Because of the hair, the structure, you cannot replicate that kind of thing. Here's the Patterson-Gimlin film Stabilized from October 20th of 1967.
Now, I got a little story. Well, you can keep on playing that, and I'm going to tell a little story.
Okay, please.
In 1986, October, deer season, that's when I had the 12-footer walk down the mountain, watched it for over an hour and a half, right? Maybe even close to 2 hours, and freaked out. Totally freaked out. It was jet black. It looked just like Patty. Around the eyes, it has skin, but everything else is covered with hair or fur or whatever you want to call it. But this thing was jet black, walked like a man, graceful, powerful, the whole thing. No thinking it was a monkey or anything. It doesn't drag its knuckles. It isn't lurching around, you know. Well, then I'm totally freaked out, and I am not going to spend another night. I think we had 9 more days to go, and I was going home. I seen enough. I even had a Weatherby 300 Magnum in my hands, and it felt like it wasn't a big enough gun. Believe it or not. With my own hand loads, too. Like, I could pack nails at 200 yards with that thing. But anyways, so I get myself home, and I got my bags and everything, and I open up the door, and I go in the front room, and, you know, the big color console TVs we used to have.
Oh, yeah.
That nobody could steal. Well, there goes Patty across the screen, walking that same one you showed right now. There it goes, walking across the screen. I threw everything, and I started jumping up and down, and I'm yelling, there it goes, you know, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It freaked me out all over again. Everybody was looking at me like I was freaking nuts because they didn't know yet, you know. So I went from the mountains seeing this thing and then drive home, walk in my house, and there it goes across the screen. Exactly how I saw it run, only it was running in the same direction right in front of me as we were deer hunting, but only there it goes walking across the screen. That's how I knew then that was real. Soon as I seen it walking across the screen, I knew that was real from what I saw to then what I saw. Like, it's real. Absolutely.
If you, as Dr. Meldrum described, the swinging of the arms, the proportion of the arms, the way it walked, there are certain, God, I wish I'd gotten the slides. I had slides previously if I'd been thinking about it. The footprints that are left, the way and the manner in which cryptids like this tend to walk. And it's not like human beings in terms of, you know, a human being will walk like this, and their toes will be pointed out a bit.
Well, one thing that a lot of people don't know, but if you were to follow that Bigfoot, the Patty or whatever you want to call it, if you were to follow it or you come in behind it, the tracks are, it has a stride that's longer than yours, 5 feet to 6 feet. And then it looks like it's walking a tightrope.
Yes, it's linear. That's what I wanted to put up. And I have the slides, but they're in the back of the computer. At the beginning of the second hour, I'd like to change the topic, but damn it, if anyone sees, as Alan has indicated, if you see large footprints wherever in nature, in the snow, and you discover that the footprints are linear in nature and they're not staggered like this, there's a fairly good chance that you're seeing tracks of some kind of a cryptid, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. The names change all over the place depending on where in the world you happen to be. But I don't believe that this was in 1968 technology. You couldn't do this. Bigfoot looking back, swinging. When it goes around, you can see that what people call patty. Let me see if I can get it to the point here.
It's way too natural. Then now you can go online and you can pull up videos of Bigfoots down through the years where you can clearly see that it's somebody in a suit, and you can clearly tell that they're clunky and the suit is baggy and it doesn't fit to their skin like that. If that was a suit, then it's the best suit. I mean, it's like having a suit that's their own skin. You know what I mean? Like, you can go and look at all those videos and people are swearing up and down that it was a Bigfoot, and clearly it was a baggy, yucky, stupid suit.
And this is why it's extremely sad that Dr. Jeff Meldrum passed away last year at the age of 67, because he brought science into the equation. And if you'd listened to him describe, how otherwise could you fill a 2.5 hour to 3 hour presentation using, he had a lot of videos to use, but he also had various illustrations of his beliefs, his reproductions, his footprints that were cast. He brought some casts, and that's essentially what he did, is he collected casts for many years. But if you'd seen that, I believe anyone and everyone would have come away with a much different take on it. You can read this. Tonight's show will be as per normal, like I normally do. If you want to see the articles, read about Dr. Meldrum, you can see them when I finish the show on Rumble. Go to BZ's Saloon on Rumble, even though the show is not called BZ's Saloon tonight. It was a very, very sad day. Alan Thomas, final 30 seconds before we go to break. Any summary that you'd care to make about either Dr. Meldrum and or Bigfoot?
I did disagree with them on something. And,
okay, please.
And only because he was more flesh and blood, kind of like ape man,
correct,
kind of thing. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's a people. It could be interdimensional. It can speak into your head, your thoughts, mind speak. It can disappear and reappear or appear in front of you. It can glow its eyes at night, red, white, green, amber color. So that's where we disagreed. I went more into the supernatural realm with it. He would not go there. But I'm sure that he probably would if he actually saw one and seen some of the things I seen. He probably would go there, but he didn't. He hasn't. So, but everything he did do, he never said they're not real.
No,
right? They're real.
When we spoke to him, and I had my photograph taken, and the other thing I want to emphasize, and Alan, you'll know this, there isn't a kinder, more considerate professional that I'd met in anthropology ever before. The guy had all the time for you, answered any questions that you may have had, specifically when he was doing his presentation. And the guy was there to answer any and all questions whatsoever. He was a very, very gracious man, and I'm very sad that he passed. Folks, I'm BZ. That is Alan Thomas over there.
I'm gonna I have a cast that I took recently up in the foothills. So after the break, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna bring it back, and we'll go into the next thing, but I want to share that with everybody.
Okay, that's outstanding. That would be great. I am BZ tonight. We're in the saloon with something a little bit different. The show is access denied, 403 forbidden. It's my new show about, it'll be coming here periodically when I have some information to present, but I'm just sort of separating it from my political show. I think I've done a fairly decent job of the separation. Again, Alan Thomas, I'm BZ. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Entry. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing robot launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Folks, I am BZ. Right over there is Alan Thomas, the guest and co-host for tonight. Kudos and thanks to everyone who has been here. This is a new program of mine. I customarily do politics, but I thought it was time to unearth my new show, Access Denied 403 Forbidden, where, as I've indicated, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about the anomalous and the unhinged and the fringe and the cringe and the UFOs and the blood, the mud and the beer and the cryptids and the abhorred and the ignored, the restored, the Bigfoot and Sasquatch, the curious, the quantum, the lore, the chimera, the unquantifiable, the untaxonomicable, the forbidden, the unbidden, the dark, the abnormal, the paranormal, the unsound, the subterfuge, the cabals, the conspiracies, and as I'm enjoying saying, because I know there are certain personnel out there that this will get them, all the little wet, slimy things that refuse to fit in your closet and that leak from your dresser, or you can hear them breathe under your bed at night. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'll be talking about in the future. In any event, this is Alan Thomas. He is a great gent, and as he promised, let me see if I can pull this over and embiggen you here. That is a cast of what and where, Alan Thomas?
It's a Bigfoot, of course. And this was in Toll House. It looks like it has 6 toes, but really it only has 5, but it turned. You can see its heel where it turned. And it was standing there, and then it turned and pushed the mud up between its toes. Right here. That's mud. This is the big toe. What was going on with this one was these people were in an RV on their property. They hadn't built their home yet, and so they had one of those big RVs, you know, a big one. And they were living in it, and they were sitting in there one evening playing video games, I think Mario Kart or something like that. And the wife felt like that something was looking through the window and she was being watched. So she looked, and she seen this thing bent down to look inside the RV, and she screamed, and the husband jumped, and then he looked at her, and then he looked towards the windshield where she was looking. And he said the Bigfoot went like it was busted. And then it turned and made, like, in one leap, jumped from their RV across the yard 35 feet to the dirt road and landed on the dirt road. And he was saying it looked like Spider-Man. Its arms was straight out in front of it, and its legs were straight out in front of it, like a broad jumper or somebody that does long jumping. And he said it went through between 2 oak trees, and he said it looked like it grabbed the branches and then even pulled itself and propelled itself further. So it went 35 or so feet. Now, while they're telling me all this, I'm standing in front of the RV where it would be standing, right? And I hadn't looked down yet. And I'm looking at the bottom of the window is a foot above my head. And I'm thinking it had to bend over, like, wow, that's a bus, right? It's a bus, basically a bus. And it had to bend over to look in the windshield of that bus. And the windshield was, I don't know, it was almost a foot above my head, the way the ground was. And I was like, oh my God, that's a big one, you know. And then I looked down, and right there was the track in the sand. And they had been trying to grow grass. So there was one sand spot right in front of their bus, and it left a print right there. I looked for several hours till dark. Probably 3.5 hours, and I couldn't find another track on the property anywhere. That was the only one, but I got the casting of it.
That was how long ago, Alan Thomas?
Not this last November, the November before that.
So this is some really recent stuff.
And Toll House. So Toll House is in the foothills, the lower foothills.
Okay.
On the way to Shaver Lake. And they have this old Toll House road that goes up to Shaver Lake. And it was where, like, Toll House is where they had the toll. The loggers had to pay to go up and down the hill with the logs. And I mean, it's a switchback, scary little road. I can't believe they took wagons with logs on them up and down that steep little. But at the bottom, there's the Toll House, right? Well, right about, I would say, a half a mile across the street from the little Toll House store, there's a road that you take from another road off of the Toll House road that goes up into the foothills. There's a little road that goes off, and it's called Hidden Hollow. And it's a dead-end road. Right at the end of the road is right where this happened, on Hidden Hollow Road. And people could look that up probably on a map and see Hidden Hollow Road by Toll House, California. Yeah, that's where it was.
Let me put this up so that folks get a little bit of a comparison, because there are some other things that were mentioned in chat that I want to get into in just a moment. Okay, you said that you believed yours was 12 feet tall. Let me show you this in comparison, folks. The standard railway, because I was into railroads and locomotives and got a lot of cab rides in the late 90s and early 2000s. The average cab at the top of the cab where it says 1201 right there, that's about 15 feet tall. That's the size of the locomotive. The standard gauge in the United States is 4'8.5" in width. And the tops of those cabs are about anywhere from 14.5 feet to 15 feet tall. So in comparison, when Alan is talking about a cryptid or a beast, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, that's standing 12 feet tall, that creature would be able to look into the side windows of that locomotive. So I bring this up in comparison. These are not small little critters that people see. They can be rather large. Now, the other thing I want to go up to is Boyd, who came in to chat and says, hey, please refresh my memory. Alan has been on with BZ years ago talking about Bigfoot. Yeah, I met Alan in 2015. And I used to call into the show on which he was with another gentleman. And then we corresponded over the years. And Alan has been to my place in Idaho a couple of winters. And Alan is just a great guy. But yeah, I've had Alan on any number of times here in the saloon. So I wanted to make sure that I addressed that question. And NCX Group had a question for you also, Alan. And that is this: what's your take on dogmen?
Well, that's something that I had a hard time with that one for a long time. But only I was getting reports. Like, we would go out investigating Bigfoot in the Central Valley, inside the Central Valley. Okay, not away in the mountains where I thought it always was. I'm talking about where these rivers and where people go fishing and they go to the park, a little lake, you know, in the valley, along the foothills where you go into the foothills. And we started getting Bigfoot reports all down the river. Like, I would bet the Bigfoot run and Dogman run down through the rivers, down through Sacramento, along the American River, all that. Everywhere there's a river, they are moving along a waterway, a creek, a canal. They use that like a traffic, like that's their highway. But while we're out there, we would run into fishermen and they would be asking us what we're there for, and we would tell him, and then he's like, man, like a week ago I saw a dog man. Like, really? Wait, hey, stop. Tell me about that.
Yeah, let's chat about that, dude.
Yeah, and just like when I was in Idaho, I was running into people that seen Bigfoot, you know what I mean? Like, crazy. They're everywhere, absolutely everywhere, in the valleys, in the mountains. But the dog man, I started hearing so many stories, and then my good friend Adolf, who is he's an abductee. The aliens abducted him a few times, right? And his friends. But we would go out there. Me and him would go out investigating these things, and he actually ran into the dog man. And we were looking for something totally different. And he can't run. He has a bum knee, but he was running.
Yeah.
And screaming and yelling at me to run, right? And he's running down this trail and coming back towards me, yelling, run, run, you know, gonna get out of here. And when he got there, he was out of breath, and I held him there for a minute, let him catch his breath. Like, what was it? What was it? He goes, like, there's a dog man. I go, let's go back, you know? He's like, what? Like, I'm not going back. I talked him into it, though, very carefully, and it wasn't there. But there is evidence that it was there, and it was after these pigs, wild pigs, or feral pigs. I guess they're wild. And a lot of times around that area, I've talked to several farmers and different people who live along that river, and the Bigfoot are hunting those pigs as well, and actually caught them running with one over its shoulder, you know, like that. There's a group of 5. One of them is 14 feet tall. Okay, the biggest one is 14 feet tall out of the 5. And it was carrying the pig. And then there's a big irrigation pipe that's half buried in the ground, but it's like 4 feet tall, right? I mean, it's like 4 feet out of the ground, half of it's sticking out, and it's 4 feet tall. Like, it's huge, like 6 foot around or more. And the other 4 went over it, and he's carrying a pig. He looked back because this dude was shooting at him. This farmer was shooting at him, thinking it was people. He wasn't trying to hit him, but he was shooting in their direction and hitting the ground, right? And it looked back at him, and when it turned back, there was the pipe, and it hit the pipe. Pig went one way, he went the other way, and rolled, and then got up and grabbed the pig and took off. And within like seconds, they ran like a half a mile into another orchard. You know, it's like a 40-acre plot, and it ran half of his 40 acres, and then a full 40 acres, almost as fast as I just said that. Like, he popped off like 5 or 6 shots, and then they were gone. That far, though. That's how fast they move. And the dog man, I hear, is even faster. They say that he leaves a streak, like the Flash. Like, you see him, and then he goes to run, and it's so fast, all you see is a streak. And it could be 60 yards, and you'll just see this streak. Within 3 seconds, it's gone. 60 yards. Like, crazy, unheard of, hard to believe stuff.
I'd like to make a distinction now at this point. And last time that you and I spoke about anything like this, I used to live, before I moved out of Califailure for obvious reasons, I had a house, Mrs. BZ had a house down in Sacramento, and I had a house up at about the 4,000 foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Not far from Interstate 80. And by that time, you're not exactly in the high granite, but you're certainly in the deep firs at 4,000 feet. And we would get customarily snow, pretty deep snow, up to 8 feet or so at times. And I can remember you saying, BZ, if you want to drag out any critterin like Bigfoot or Sasquatch that are nearby, hang a bag of oranges. I never got around to doing that, damn it. And I wish I had. But you also made another distinction, is that it appears that Bigfoot, Sasquatch are coming down from the mountains, and they're being seen in areas where they haven't been seen before. And then you started speaking about resources in water and food. And there are some reasons why they're apparently not staying way, way, way high in the upper elevations. And maybe you could address that for just a moment in terms of the environment is changing with them.
Well, over here, we've had so many fires that the forest around here is all burnt for miles, like 600 square miles of forest is burnt. And that's just one burn area, right? There's more that are 300 square miles and 400 square miles, and there's little patches of green. But I don't think that that's what drove them out. I think in the certain months, they're down here. And all summer, they're down here, and who knows how fast they can travel. Or I know they use the waterways because we've actually tracked them to several lakes. Easton Lake, there's families using these lakes, like little bitty little tracks, all the way to big, giant, bigger than that track that I just showed you. And it's when we first taken the reports, almost every one of them was around oranges. And for the longest time, I thought they liked oranges. That's why they were there, was because they liked oranges. But sometimes during that time of the year, there's no oranges. They just got harvested, but it's still being seen in there, right? Standing on now these oranges are like 10 feet tall, 9-10 feet tall. And these things would stand up and look over the orange at people or the tree and scream at people and scare the you-know-what out of them. But I found out, well, one day we were in there, and there was these 5 Bigfoot that I was talking about where the guy was shooting at him, 7 miles away. And now I hadn't talked to anybody about this yet because it's all fresh. For like 2 years, all I did was just taking the stories of them. I didn't want to put it out there because then everybody and their brother would make something up, right? And I didn't want anybody making up something. So we didn't talk about it. So 7 miles away, there's one messing with these guys, and they're hiding in an oranges and tangerines. And we were in there, and we actually got a track of one of them that was in there. And they were probably in there with us. And not only that, there was dogman being seen in the same places. That's what's really weird. Only I realized while we're all looking for tracks, I could take one step and everybody couldn't see me because the oranges are evergreen. They're always got leaves on them, and they grow low to the ground. So this thing could step into an orange tree, inside the branches and disappear, or step behind one. You wouldn't be able to see it. And then it dawned on me, what a great place to play hide and seek in the oranges. It could be one tree away from me. I would never see it. It could move all over the place. I would not see it. And that scared the you-know-what out of me. And I got out of that orange field quick when I started realizing that, like, you come around an orange tree and all of a sudden it pops your head off, right? It just reaches out and yeah. So I got out of there.
I loved your analogy when people go camping, and I have to repeat this because it's so damn funny, at least it was to me. I guess you have to have a weird sense of humor. That, if you happen to be in a tent and Bigfoot's around, you could be a sack lunch yourself. I enjoyed that. The other thing I want to make
3-man sack lunch.
Oh, yeah. 1 man or 2 men, or 2 man, 1 woman, whatever the hell it is, you're potentially tasty. Although I can't say that I'm aware of many, if any, situations where allegedly a Bigfoot / Sasquatch has killed somebody, unless you happen to know of situations like that, Alan Thomas.
I kind of do. The Missing 411 book has some people that gone missing in Yosemite.
Okay.
And I mean hundreds of thousands of people go missing. Children, and usually they are lagging behind, or they get ahead of the group, just ahead where they go around the curve, and then they never see them again. And my thing with I don't think anybody comes back because they can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they got killed by one, they're gone. They're not ever going to be seen again. So nobody comes back with a story. Not very many. I've taken stories where it pushed the tent down. It's reached in and grabbed people and tried to drag them out of the tent. And one guy got drugged, like, 30 or 40 feet. But he had a pistol and he fired off the pistol and let go. But he didn't shoot it. He just fired it off because he was afraid of it. He didn't think the gun was big enough. But there's a lot of stories like that, but there's never one where they got attacked straight up and lived to tell about it.
I'm looking for this right now. Let me see if I can find this and view the file. I want to point something out. For example, here's Yosemite National Park. And where you are is near Fresno in the San Joaquin Valley. And the San Joaquin Valley is very fertile. Historically has grown lots of orchards, lots of fruit, nuts, etc. And then going further east, you're going up the mountains. And Yosemite, as you can see right here, folks, Yosemite is not that far from you. For example, this is Highway 49. Yosemite right around here. This is the state line with Nevada. Here's Merced, and then you're near Fresno, kind of in the middle of the state. Fresno would be somewhere around here. So you're not that terribly far
I think
from
the crow
Yosemite.
flies like 60 miles, something like that.
From Yosemite National Park, and we're talking, well, anybody that's been into the park knows what a wonderful place it is. But I'm just trying to illustrate that these are really serious mountains and crags up in here. So a Bigfoot or Sasquatch theoretically wouldn't have that terribly far to go into a wonderfully fertile valley and seek food.
You could go straight down the Merced River, right in down that way, Highway 120, I think it is. And it could follow creeks, the watershed. I think that's how they go down. They follow the creeks, they get to the lakes, the canals, and then they just keep going on out. And I think they travel at night. Most of I seen the comment, a friend of mine was a Fowler cop, and you don't know how many of those stories, Kerman, where there's orange trees or other trees, and the Bigfoot takes 2 steps and runs it, goes across the road. It's running, but it took only 2 steps to cross the road and go into the orchard on the other side and disappear. I don't know how many, I would say a dozen of those, Kerman and Fowler and Selma and Sanger and Reedley and Dinuba and all over the place or out there. And as far as Kerman too, that's what I've even took one that was on the San Joaquin River, and it was way out, like way out there on the way to the Bay Area. It could have even went all the way to the Bay Area, as far as I know. I know they're seen in where Felton, where the museum is,
right?
San Jose area in the mountains, apples and stuff like that. They're all in there.
Felton is where I used to work a long time ago in the 70s as a deputy sheriff for Santa Cruz, and I used to, that's the one beat. And in the one beat, especially at night, you go up Highway 9, you go down Highway 9, you go up Highway 9, you go down Highway 9. So Felton, right around there, heavily wooded. And there would also be lots and lots of fodder for Bigfoot. We're going to take a break, folks. This is Alan Thomas over here. Thank you for being present tonight. This is kind of the first show, I hope, of many of Access Denied 403 Forbidden, where we talk about damn near everything. And when we come back, I'll tell you exactly what we're going to be talking about. When we come back, I want to continue with Bigfoot here just a little bit, because there were some questions and some observations in chat, and I'd like to have you, I'd like to go over some of those, and I'd like to have you address some of those. So Alan Thomas, I'm BZ. You're not in the saloon. You're forbidden.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing. They're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast,
passion. Are you looking for bold and honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, it's the final half hour of the show. Thank you for being here tonight. It's 9:34 Pacific. That means it's 10:34 Central. No, 11:34 Central. And, midnight 034 on the eastern coast, on the eastern seaboard for all of you people there. Thanks for being in the saloon, except it's not the saloon tonight. It's a new show of mine that I called Access Denied 403 Forbidden, where it will be occasional when I have some information. I have some plans for this show. Aha's plans for the show. But basically, I plan to be talking about all the anomalous things. And as I've indicated before, the unhinged, the fringe, the cringe, the UFOs, the cryptids, the abhorred, the ignored, the restored, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the curious, the quantum, the lore, the chimera, the unquantifiable, the untaxonomicable, the forbidden, the unbidden, the dark, the abnormal, the paranormal, the unsound, the subterfuge, the cabals, the conspiracies, and the wet, slimy things that refuse to fit in your closet, that leak from your dresser, or breathe under your bed at night. And I know you can hear it. I know that for a fact. Let's bring in Alan Thomas. Alan Thomas, thanks for being here tonight. One thing I want to do is, you live in, and I'm going to put up the map here, you live in essentially a very curious and yet wonderful hotbed of all kinds of crazy things going on. Now, I'm going to have to outline this stuff, and I'm going to have to take the comments off just a moment so people can see this better. This is kind of the center portion of Califailure. And I'm going to circle the points that are important. This is Fresno. So if you know about Fresno, it's kind of in the state of California. It's about 4 hours south of Sacramento, the capital. So this is Fresno. This is a little town that you mentioned called Kerman. This is Highway 99, which runs the length north and south of California. If you keep going east into the Sierra National Forest, here are the Dinky Lakes Wilderness. And then up here is the John Muir Wilderness here. and Kaiser Peak, 10,000 feet. So this entire area in Central California is a great place for Sasquatch to be seen. And you can see, folks, this is the general area where Alan Thomas lives, who is here tonight. And thanks again to Alan. Ranging not that terribly far from Yosemite and the John Muir Wilderness, which truly is, in fact. Now, having said that, let me go back into the chat room. And if NCX is still here, I'd like to address this with him. And he mentions he was at a Boy Scout camp at Camp Chawanakee in the Eastern Sierras, which is above Fresno. And again, I want to indicate this is Fresno. It's above Fresno up here towards Goat Mountain. And he heard a vocalization. And I will get to some of the other comments that are in here. So, Alan Thomas, what can you tell us about vocalizations that I know you have personally heard with regard to Bigfoot, Sasquatch?
I've heard them talking. I don't know what they said, but I've heard them talking. I've been roared at a decibel level that makes your whole body vibrate on the inside. One day we're not far from Sequoia National Park either. Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Park is southeast. So almost the same distance as Yosemite, northeast. The Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon National Park are southeast from me. So I cover all that all the way down to the Thule Reservation in Porterville, right outside, like between Tulare and Bakersfield. Over there, they have the Painted Rock, where it's estimated about 1,000 years ago, the tribe painted life-size family of Bigfoots on this big painted rock. I've been there several times. I've camped there. Like on one camping, we were along the river, and they were going to go to Chololo Falls, so we were at Chololo Campground. I got up in the middle of the night to go pee, and we put these motion sensors around our tent, 4 of them, like east, north, west, like that, of the 4 corners of the tent or the 4 sides. And I got up and I walked right up to the sensor, but I didn't go past it, so it wouldn't set it off. And I was relieving myself, and it was a full moon, and we were under these giant 200-year-old oak trees, huge, along this river. And I look up, and there's a Bigfoot about 9 feet tall, about as wide as a VW, and he was swaying back and forth, looking at me. He was probably 20 feet from me, but he was in the shade of the oak tree with me. And I peed all over my shoes, and I barely made it back in the tent. And the weirdest thing, I got in the tent, and why would I think that this sack lunch is going to save me, right? I already call it a sack lunch. And I get in there, and I cover up, and then my nephew gets out, and I hear him rummaging around. Next thing I know, he's cussing up a blue streak, almost tearing the tent down to get back in it. And then I'm waking up. Now, before this, he gets in the tent, and then 2 sensors start going off. One on the side where I saw that, and I think he saw that, and then there was another one on the other side of the tent. Both motion sensors are going off. And then I was waking up. And now, if you know there's something out there that's only 10 feet away or 15 feet away, you do not go to sleep. You'd be very lucky if you fell asleep. I don't remember even going to sleep. I remember laying there listening as the motions are going off, and then look and see that it's on each side of the tent, say north and south, and then I'm waking up. And that freaked me out so bad. That freaked me out really bad. And I still don't have an answer to that. I've lost time up by Sequoia National Park. We were driving into our place that we call the Spot. We've got DNA from them over there. We've been roared at. They throw things at us. They circle our camp and talk. They sound like, I don't know, like they'll sound like owls at first for like an hour, and then it'll devolve into a monkey sound, and then it goes into full-on howling, you know, like long, loud howls and stuff like that. And then after we go to bed, then the little rocks and pebbles start hitting the tent for a few hours. And then they'll walk into the tent or the camp, and then they'll step on the tarp that we set our tent on, that only has like 5 inches of tarp on hanging out from the bottom of the tent. And it'll rattle the pans. It'll walk between the tents. And then as they're walking away, you can hear them talking to each other. I mean, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. I have people that went with us, and they'll never go camping again, and they never saw anything. All they heard everything: the tree knocks, the hollers, the screams, the howling, and then experienced the little pebbles hitting the top of the tent and rolling down right by their head, right? So it'll throw a pebble that's right above you, and then it'll roll down the tent right next to where your head is. In fact, one guy that he used to go up there with us.
Oh, they don't just throw pebbles.
No, they throw boulders too, but only usually they haven't hit us with it, but they'll throw them in the creek or the river just to the right or left of you, you know, like down in the pool up there. And one guy, something that I realized, they could see the IR. They can see the IR light because they avoided everything that we had IR light with.
Your infrared light from what? A camera? Video?
Yeah, cameras, game cameras. We set up security cameras.
Okay.
And they could avoid them. They could actually cause the camera to shoot 8 or 9. Like we'll set apples out, and the apples will be gone. They'll leave all the stickers in a little pile right where the apples were. And we have 3 game cameras aiming at the apples. All 3 game cameras show the apples. A bird hops by the apple. We got it on all 3. Then all of a sudden there's 8 or 9 black photos. Nothing but black. And then it starts taking photos. They all start taking photos. The apples are gone. And when we're collecting the SD cards out of the cameras, we realize there's a pile of stickers where the apples were. Each apple had a little sticker on it. All the stickers are piled up right where the apples were. So they took the time to peel the apple stickers off.
Because they wouldn't want to. Who would want to eat the plastic? No one.
Right.
would.
Yeah. It was crazy. And it's crazy, crazy. I have so many stories. It's ridiculous. But they won't even go anymore with us. Sometimes there's this one where we were hiking, and there was about 7 of us, and one guy was a cop, and he was about 6'7". He was a big dude, right? And not afraid of anything, armed to the teeth. And he was kind of lagging behind us. And all of a sudden, you know, he lost it, and he wanted to go home. He was leaving. He's not ever coming back. Well, he says we walked right by a Bigfoot 2 feet from it. 2 feet.
Okay.
And we didn't see it. And then it took one step. It moved and stepped in front of him 1 step and glowed its eyes red at him. And he lost it. He won't go with us ever again. There's one that was a CEO in the prison. He was a nurse CEO in the prison, and he had a pacemaker, and he kept on complaining that the Bigfoot were doing something to him, and it was messing with his heart and his pacemaker. And he would go inside his tent, and it would mess with him inside the tent. Even though he's all zipped up and everything, they were still messing with him. One night it had a rainstorm, and we so that because the tents, these stupid cheap tents leak, right? So we were bringing tarps and putting them over the tent. I put a tarp over his tent that night or that weekend for several nights, 3 nights, I think. He was getting messed with outside the tent, but when he went in to go to bed, they quit messing with him. And I started thinking, you know what? Can they see through the tent? Like, can they see through that flimsy material and know where you are and mess with you and mess with your pacemaker and all that? Because ever since, even then, when it wasn't raining, we put a tarp over it. He never had it happen to him again. Like, isn't that amazing? Like, how do you explain that?
Well, I think the observation by Boyd McPhail in chat is apropos. Yeah, they're talking to each other, laughing at how much they made you shit your pants.
Yeah.
I gotta agree with that. I want to put this up again in reference to another comment that I'm going to be talking about here. Again, this is Clovis, Fresno. This is the general area in which you live. This is Highway 99, goes the length of California from north to south. The further east you go, the more you're getting into mountains, and you're also starting to get into Yosemite. You'd mentioned this. Kings Canyon National Park. Here's Sequoia and Kings Canyon Wilderness. Sequoia National Park. So the areas that you go to where you call the spot, and people you historically have been able to go there and see manifestations of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, that sort of thing. I mean, it's all relatively close all around here. And then I want to go back. I'll take this off the screen for a second. And I don't know if he's still here. There's a man named Howard in chat who said, I saw a dog man run up a hill, outran me. I'm on an ATV. I was scared chasing it up the icy hill. I got to the top about 30, 45 seconds behind it. I scanned the hill and it was nowhere to be seen. Now, he didn't indicate a geographic area, but again, as we were talking about Dogman, you said, yeah, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, pretty fast. And you also indicated that, yeah, guess what? Seems to me that Dogmen were a little bit faster. And then there's a new person in chat, I am Simone, who said, and I'm going to use this again for a reference, the map here in just a moment, because it all seems to be concentrating in a general area of Califailure. A friend of mine was a cop in Fowler. Okay, so let me bring the map in again right here. And so here is Fresno, Kerman, Sanger, all the mountains all over here. And then here's Fowler, kind of right in the middle. And Fowler is south of where you are. And she says, a friend of mine was a cop in Fowler here, right off Highway 99, driving on a narrow road with orange trees on both sides. A Bigfoot ran across the road in front of him. And this is from a person who my understanding is not a really big believer in Sasquatch or anything of that nature. So all of this stuff is really, really close. Boyd also indicated that, yeah, that was funny. I got it. And then Simone comes back and says, subsonic about what? The sound? That would be infrasound, or what's that a reference to, do you think?
It's to what was messing with his pacemaker. They call it ultrasound or something like that, like low frequency
infrasound.
Yeah, infrasound. There you go. The lions and the whales and the elephants and stuff, they have that too. They can freeze their prey, or they can get really loud like Bigfoot and freeze their prey. One of the things where he was talking about the dog man, and some of the people that I've talked to that seen dog man and then it realized it was being seen, it can jump 20 or 30 feet. And go over a hill like in seconds, but it won't run. It will jump, and they said it looks like Spider-Man, the way it jumps and jump like and go 800 feet, and then be gone over the top of the mountain. And then ever since like 1991, somewhere in there, I started going up and try to find tracks. And I would pick up a track of a Bigfoot that was my size footprint in the wilderness. It would be just outside of Yosemite National Park on the south border of it, in an area where the closest geographic thing I could think of that people will remember forever when I say it is Jackass Meadow.
Okay.
Around Jackass Meadow, I would find these tracks. I would pick up these tracks, big ones, little ones, my size, like size 10, and I would follow them into the wilderness a couple of miles, and then we would go over a ridge, and on the top of the ridge there's no trees. It's above the tree line, and everything's granite. So there's all these rock caps, but surrounded by like little decomposed granite, almost like a coarse sand, that makes perfect tracks. And it would walk into this big giant area of this decomposed granite right into the middle of it, and it would be walking the tightrope all the way for like 3 miles. No roads, no anything. It's walking into the wilderness. If it keeps going, it's going to go to Nevada. Well, it would be on the top of the ridge, and the track would just end in the snow. We've tracked them and go, half a mile in the snow, and then all of a sudden the track just stops. And then you start going in circles, ever expanding, trying to pick up the track, and there is no other trackway. It stopped. It just dead ended. It just like it disappeared, or a UFO picked it up. Like, I don't know. We've talked about all kinds of different things. Why could they do that? How do they go a mile or two and then all of a sudden their trackway just stops? Like, I don't know how many times, probably 100 times I've tracked them like that.
Would it be because, and obviously I'm unfamiliar with the terrain, but could it possibly be because you're already in the high granite and somehow it accesses some granite that's above you or in an area that you yourself can't get to, that somehow it climbed into something like that?
Well, like one of the, have you ever been on top of a ridge and it has a dome of granite on the very top?
Yes. Yep.
And maybe it's like, I don't know, 75 feet around or something like that. No trees, because it's higher than the trees. Right. And then all around it is decomposed granite going back down the hill with bushes and stuff like that, but all decomposed granite going all the way down, probably like half a mile or more. That's where the track would end, right there. And then we'd go around that hill, around and around and around, and the tracks just went right. We're heading straight for that dome. Before it got there, maybe like 50 yards before it got there, 40 yards, it just stopped.
Okay.
Perfect tracks too. Perfect. No trees, no boulders, no anything, just stop.
Okay. We're going to have to leave pretty soon, about 5 minutes or so, or 3 or 4 minutes. Simone in chat asks a question for you. She says, hey, do you think maybe these are some kind of a migration route to the Pacific Northwest, perchance?
Okay, so that we don't know. I'm leaning that they travel farther than we think, because one night at our spot, which is outside of the Sequoia National Park, there was owls. There was like 4 owls, and they were going around the camp, circling the camp, and we recorded it. After a couple hours, they turned into sounding like chimps, and they were angry and they were making all kinds of noise. And then it got into loud screams, right? Sounding like a lady getting murdered. Really weird. So we were trying to figure it out, like what owl? We never heard an owl like that. And I have a friend in the forestry, and I played that sound from the owl, and he told me that it was the owls that they don't come down. I can't remember the name of the owl now, but they don't come down this far. Like the farthest down they go is about 700 miles north of us, like even north of Sacramento by 300 miles. You know what I mean? Like way up there. I can't remember the name of the owl now, but they do a weird sound and they don't come down here. But then he said that isn't that owl when it started turning into a monkey and then hooting and, you know, screaming and stuff. He said that's not that owl. So we were talking, you know, like, where did they learn that actual call, that owl call?
So that's mimicry, which indicates that they travel then.
Right. And we're talking like Northern California, Oregon border type, you know, like north. And I wish I could remember the name of the owl, but it just escapes me at this point.
One final question from Simone, and then we're going to have to wrap up the show. She says, okay, well, I guess regarding Bigfoot or Sasquatch, opening a portal, walking through, that would potentially account for you're seeing a track, you're up in the high granite, you're in it's leaving a track in the decomposed portion, and yet you're surrounded by these high granite boulders, but you run against a wall. I mean, it just stops.
Well, when I started researching the tribes and what they say about it, and there's one story that you can look up online, and it's called Sul Kalu. And it's a Cherokee Bigfoot story. Sul Kalu or something like that. And in that one, and then there's the other one where the people say that they go to sleep and like Rip Van Winkle, you know, and they go to sleep and then they wake up and it's 20 years later or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This Sul Kalu thing, that they would go walk into a creek and then they would start walking up the creek and then they would go right into the granite rock. That's where they lived at. But you can't see it. You'd have to go into the water and then kind of into this, I don't know what you call a different dimension. And then that's where they live. And people that have tribe members that went in there and they came out, they were gone 2 weeks and they thought they were only gone 3 minutes. You know, like they had a quick thing. The Bigfoot said, you can't be here, and kicked them out. And then when they got back to the village, everybody been looking for him for 2 weeks. So, you know, I don't have the answers, but it is very intriguing.
Well, folks, thank you for being here tonight. And thanks to Alan Thomas. We're going to have him back. This is just one. This is so typical.
Let's talk aliens next time.
Well, you know, there was my hat and there was my t-shirt and there were my things all queued up about aliens, etc. And no, did we get to that? Of course we didn't.
Sure. We could go a whole show on just that. Believe me.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So anyway, this is the first of a number of programs that I hope to. I just had an idea passed through my head. I might put ads in some of the local papers up here in North Idaho and see if I can get anybody to respond in terms of, because where I am in North Idaho, especially with all the rivers, all the lakes, all the mountains, and the ranges through here, my guess would be this might be a target-rich environment for hunters who have been out and about quite a significant distance from civilization, and just put it out there in an ad and say, hey, if you've been a hunter, if you've had encounters of kind of a similar nature to Alan here, hey, give me a call. I'll provide an email number, and maybe I'll find out if I get any. I'll throw out the line, and I'll see if I reel in anybody who is willing to chat with me about what's been going on. Now, you are not hesitant because you have an extremely wide array of experiences, but like pilots who are not really willing to say that they've seen a UFO, my guess is historically there may not be many people willing to say that they've seen something like that. But I won't know. It's like fishing. Unless I throw out the line, I will never find out anyway if there's a great fish in there or whether I'm just too scared to throw out the fly during the current. Anyway,
I can guarantee you there's some Bigfoot experiencers all around you. And I've met a few when I was up there, and I've even made them Facebook friends now. And sometimes we chat about that.
Yeah. I've had them on the show before with you. Like Nate Rudd, for example.
Yeah, there you go.
Nate knows you, and the filmmaker who captured Nate Rudd's testimony, he's in the state of Washington, poor bastard. And he's had visuals of this, plus the documentarian who has made some films behind this, Edward Manji. And Edward, God dang, he was a great interview. Oh my God, I'll have to play that again sometime.
I haven't seen that guy in a while.
I think the talent is there. I think the witnesses are there. I know that you are there, and I got to have you back on the show again. And one other thing, if you'd, before we go, Alan, anything that you'd like to let people know about either, say, for example, your YouTube channel, Squatch Zone, or any other thing that you'd like to mention before we go?
There is one thing and this goes with all paranormal. Be careful what you wish for. Okay. These things, I think, are not what I think they lie. Over the years, I've found that they may be something biblical and not in a good way. And they can follow you. They will tag you, and they can follow you and cause bad things. And I know this only because I know a lot of people, they want to see one, and they go out there and they bang on trees and they do all this stuff. And then when they find them, they wish they didn't. Changes your life. Just be careful what you wish for.
Interesting point. So, Alan Thomas, thanks for being here tonight. I'm going to have to leave myself. It's time for ta-ta, as we say. And again, access denied. 403 forbidden. To all the people who are watching here tonight, thanks for your attendance. There will be more when I find certain amounts of material. People enjoy these shows, and I enjoy presenting them. I've not been a massive experiencer myself, but I like to have people on who have done so. I've had a few experiences, one with what I thought was a Sasquatch, and another one with what I thought was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with what I believed were UFOs. Technically speaking, they were unidentified, they were flying, and they were objects. Did they have anything to do with actual aliens? The bottom line from all of that is I don't have the first damn clue. But on the other hand, I know what I saw. In other words, thanks, people. Thanks for being here tonight. Tomorrow, I want to make mention of the fact on the SHR Media Network that we will have Friday is a twofer show, 2 shows on SHR. And the first one begins at 4 p.m. Pacific. That is Bier und Bullstein with Lyle Armstrong. And that begins at 4 p.m. Pacific. And then at 6 p.m. Pacific, SHR wraps up the general work week with the Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe. Folks, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for daring to access the forbidden. I'm BZ. This is the SHR Media Network, and good night.